Now, as you will be aware, David Lynch died last week, age 78. And you've been sending us lots of emails and stuff on social media about David and his films. Mark, how many times did you interview him? Quite a few times.
6 or 7, I think, altogether. I mean, over a number of years. I mean, I was a huge fan. I imagine everyone knows, but so, Lynch was an artist and painter who, in that lovely documentary, talks about him saying, "God, if only you could make paintings move," and then someone going, "You can, it's called cinema." Made Eraserhead in the 70s, which was one of the definitive cult movies of the era that, we all saw at late night. I saw it at the Phoenix and East Finchley. Other people saw it at the Scala. The Elephant Man, which was produced by Mel Brooks, who famously described David Lynch as Jimmy Stewart from Mars, which is the most perfect description. Jimmy Stewart from Mars is exactly what he was. He did the feature film of Dune before the Villeneuve film, Blue Velvet, which is an extraordinary work. The first time I saw it, it completely hit me the wrong way, and I walked out because I was so shocked by it. And then I saw it again and thought it was a masterpiece. Wild at Heart, which is a huge success. Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, which was kicked all around town by critics, except me, Alan Jones, Nigel Floyd, Kim Newman, all of whom loved it, thought it was the great horror film of that year. I ended up having the great privilege of writing the sleeve notes for the soundtrack because I got to know Angelo Badalamenti. Lost Highway, Straight Story, Mulholland Drive, and then Inland Empire. He was the great American surrealist, and there have been so many filmmakers and people working in the industry paying tribute to him. It is since the news of his death, I've watched Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me again. I was, funnily enough, been working my way through Twin Peaks, the TV series, the original series, and Twin Peaks: The Return, and just breathtaking levels of invention. I think the thing that's most important to say is, having interviewed him a few times, he was very funny. He was very, very funny. He had an amazing sense of humor. And if you have a moment, if you go onto YouTube, there's a thing. It's either called David Lynch's Best Moment or David Lynch Owns Mark Kermode. And it's me and David Lynch on stage at the BFI. And I asked David Lynch this really, really long question about what electricity means in his films. And I'm saying, it seems to me like it's to do with the synaptic nerves and the thing, and it's like a visual metaphor. And the thing that's brilliant is I had asked him this question about a month previously because I was doing an interview with him about transcendental meditation, for which he was a great advocate. He really believed in TM. And he gave me a half-hour answer about this. And I asked him the same question on stage, live at the NFT, and he sits there all the way through the question, and I go, is there some truth in that? And he goes, no. And the whole audience bursts into laughter. And the genius of it is his comic timing was incredible. I mean, yeah, an extraordinary filmmaker.
Some of the correspondence that we've got will spread. Most of it is here, and there's also some of it in Take Two as well. Abby on Blue Sky. The first time I saw Lost Highway, it was like looking at the underside of my brain. I didn't know films could unsettle me from the inside, whilst also being so beautiful. Just watched Inland Empire for the first time. Laura Dern's performance is completely amazing. Rob Upton says, this is also on Blue Sky, when at school, my art teacher, who still works at the school, by the way, played us Eraserhead in full as an introduction to surrealism. We were 12 years old.
No, that's not 12, right.
No, it has its place in education, but not. So this is like top end primary or first year secondary. That's a little early. Doug says, after the death of David Lynch, I went to see Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me at the Prince Charles Cinema in London. It was a sold-out screening with a genuinely loving atmosphere from all who attended, with the cinema playing one of Lynch's weather reports before the film to much applause. Do you just want to say what they were?
He would do these weather reports when he'd sit by the go, can you believe it? It's Friday again. It's a sunny day. It was just like, it was the thing that people became really addicted to them during lockdown because it was just like, it was something to hang your hope on.
So Doug says, Fire Walk with Me, like many of Lynch's films, was derided on release. However, time has revealed it to be a thoughtful and inspired piece of filmmaking. Much of Lynch's work is about uncovering the darkness of classic Americana, and this is perhaps his most disturbing attempt. What begins as a fun Twin Peaks adventure, in fact, turns into one of the most harrowing depictions of patriarchal violence ever put to screen. It's a horror film about the horrors that often come from those closest to us and from those meant to love us.
Yes.
Cheryl Lee and Ray Wise both suit Lynch's vision brilliantly, and the film is packed with tense, frightening, and unforgettable sequences. It is hard to believe it was dismissed and even mocked when it first came out, but not by Mark. I'm glad history has vindicated David Lynch, and the film is now seen for what it is. I'm showing this because I know Mark was at the forefront of the critical re-evaluation of Fire Walk with Me and thought he might be interested to know that the film is still finding an audience. Twin Peaks is all the rage amongst 20-somethings these days. Perhaps he'll give himself a pat on the back. I look forward to next rewatching Lost Highway on the big screen, possibly the best film of my birth year, 1997.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say, not the critical evaluation. There was 4 of us loved it when it first came out. There was famously a review of it in an American journal which said, in Twin Peaks, nothing is what it seems. This isn't the worst movie ever made. It just seems like it, which is a very smart, sharp piece of writing, but completely wrong.
Ben in London. Dear, you remind me and a small Mexican chihuahua. On the subject of clapping after the film, I attended an afternoon screening of Blue Velvet the day after hearing of David Lynch's death. When the film finished and the camera tilted up to the blazing sky, the audience broke into loud cheering and applause. Such was the emotion of the moment that I truly felt every one of those people had some personal, deep and unknown connection to Lynch's art. But it was also another reminder of the power of cinema, particularly Lynch's very human cinema, to bring us all together.
One thing I should say on that front is one of the greatest conversations I had with Lynch included Blue Velvet. I told Lynch, I said the first time I saw it, I was so alarmed that I walked out, and then I went back and saw it and loved it. I said the thing I think I hadn't understood the first time round is that when Laura Dern does that speech about the robins and the light of love, that people took that as being cutesy and ironic. And I said, but it's not ironic, is it? And he said, no, it's absolutely not ironic. And his firm belief was, if there is darkness in the world, then there is light in the world. At one point, Newsweek magazine, I think it was, referred to William Peter Blatty as David Lynch's good twin. They were people who believed that all manner of darkness is mirrored by all manner of light. And that speech in Blue Velvet is not ironic. It is heartfelt.
Baptiste in Belgium. I watched Twin Peaks and my world changed. I definitely understood who David Lynch was and what we had in common. He was the person I wish I had the courage to be, if only my reality wasn't so insidious and frustrating. More importantly, he helped me through my depression. Like many of his films, I find it hard to explain. Maybe he changed my relationship with sleep. Whereas I used to let myself be controlled by my nightmares, I now see them with more nuance and hindsight, as if David himself was yelling, "Cut!" through his megaphone every time I wake up, allowing me to focus on the staging and the acting of my dreams rather than my feeling of panic. Maybe he changed my relationship with fear, anxiety, and hatred. Whereas they seemed alien and destructive to me, I now see them as shadows, making the picture of existence more enigmatic than frightening. Maybe I identify with his contradictions and his philosophy, which allows me to have a mental anchor when I lose contact with my true self. And beyond the soothing effect on my mental health, I always learned a lot as an artist, technically by analyzing his methods, the dichotomy within his work, the mix of apparently irreconcilable influences into a single peculiar and homogeneous style, and the pathos that he would take with a certain nonchalance, not worried whether we would follow him or not. And philosophically, by constantly reminding me that art, in spite of all its rules, is a space of freedom, and that even if the interpretation belongs to the public, the parameters of creation belong entirely to the cast. Anyway, I just want to thank him for having been one of us and one of the best of us. To quote The Straight Story, "It's been a genuine pleasure having you here, David. Write to us sometime." All the love and sorry for the long email. Baptiste in Belgium, thank you. And I just want to do one more before we finish in this bit. From Ben Bradford. I have to be honest, I don't think I've seen any of David Lynch's films, so would love to know where to start. Okay, maybe we can.
I mean, The Elephant Man is a very good place to start, I think.
Yes. And Beth in Swansea, this is the final one, should be noted that, so David Lynch and tobacco, which is the background if you don't know. So he was he was smoking from the age of 8, wasn't he? Would that be right?
It was something about which he was enthusiastic, yes.
Yes. But Beth says it should be noted that David Lynch spoke out against smoking towards the end of his life. Quote, "I can hardly walk across a room. It's like you're walking around with a plastic bag around your head. I really wanted to get this across. Think about it. You can quit these things that are going to end up killing you." And that was what he said in a recent interview.
Yeah.
"I would urge anyone who wants to quit to head to the NHS website for advice. I can think of no better tribute to David Lynch than saving your own life." Beth in Swansea.
That is fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic, and I think you're quite right that would be a great tribute. I mean, Lynch smoked constantly, and he talked about how much he enjoyed smoking, as whilst also accepting that it had done him, terrible damage. So I think that would be great. Also, bear in mind, I said Lynch was a great advocate of TM, and he thought that transcendental meditation really could solve a lot of problems. I'll leave you with this. I interviewed Lynch once in Paris when Lost Highway came out, and it was the morning after the Paris premiere of Lost Highway, and the film had got amazing reviews, absolutely amazing reviews. And David Lynch said to me, "The incredible thing is they screened the reels in the wrong order, and he got some of the best reviews ever." And I said, "Wow, does that?" How do you feel about that? He said, "I think it's wonderful the way that the human mind is able to put order and meaning onto disorder." And as far as he was concerned, it was great. It was like, people had watched the film in the wrong order, but their brains had imposed meaning onto it. And
most
absolutely
directors would blow a gasket.
Yeah, not Lynch.